They say old women should be quiet, grateful, and stay out of young people's business. But I say silence can be deadly. I'm Stephanie Long, born in 1951 in Trenton, New Jersey. Back in 2021, my son-in-law David left me stranded on a freezing platform at Montclair Station after a fake family trip. I felt discarded, forgotten, but then something happened that changed everything. Today, at 74, sipping hibiscus tea in my downtown penthouse, I'm finally sharing this because some of you need to learn what hidden strength looks like. If you're listening, drop your city below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell someone who needs to hear this. David always wore his charm like a tailored suit, clean, polished, and fake as hell. He married my only daughter, Sarah, 5 years ago. At first, I wanted to believe she found someone solid. But something about the way he always kept score unsettled me. If he paid for dinner, it came with a side of snide comments. If Sarah disagreed with him, she'd end up apologizing for things that weren't her fault. Still, I bit my tongue. I figured Sarah was grown and would speak up if things got bad. The plan was simple. We were headed to upstate New York for what David called a mental reset trip. Sarah needed a break. She was looking thin, her light dimming more each week. So when he invited me, said he'd booked me a first-class train ticket to meet them there, I packed my coat and favorite scarf, grateful for the chance to be close to my daughter again. Little did I know I was walking straight into a trap. We drove together to Montclair Station, David chatting about work, laughing at his own dry jokes, while Sarah sat quietly in the back seat like a guest in her own life. When we got there, he popped the trunk, helped unload my bags, and gave me a hug that was just a little too fast. "You sure you'll be okay finding your platform?" he asked with a tight smile. "I've done this before, David." I smiled politely. "Of course," he said, before sliding back into the car and driving off. It wasn't until I checked my ticket that I realized what he'd done. There was no train, no trip. The QR code was fake. I stood on the platform with my bags and a growing knot in my stomach. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. Sarah's. Turned off. That was when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. I sat on the cold bench for 2 hours, partly because I was in shock, partly because I refused to let tears fall where strangers could see. Eventually, I gathered my things and called a ride. The driver's name was Rosa. She must have seen something in my face because halfway through the drive she asked softly, "Are you okay, ma'am?" That broke me. I cried quietly in the back seat, cheeks hot with shame and fury. I was old, yes, but I wasn't stupid. And I wasn't weak. While David thought he was dealing with some forgotten granny with no assets or allies, he had no idea who I really was. Rosa helped me bring the bags inside when we arrived at my brownstone, a property David believed I'd sold years ago. That was his first mistake. You see, I wasn't always the sweet old lady who bakes blueberry muffins and knits scarves for the holidays. I was a senior financial analyst for over 3 decades. Retired, yes. But retired doesn't mean erased. I had investments, stocks, properties David didn't even know existed. The modest condo I rented near Sarah, owned under an alias. I was watching, learning, documenting, waiting. That night I called an old friend, Elena, a tech-savvy widow who ran a private investigations business. I told her everything. "You ready to go nuclear?" she asked. "No, iwisparat." "I'm ready to go surgical." We started digging. I had questions and Elena had answers. Rosa became my assistant. Between her sharp instincts and Elena's background checks, it didn't take long before David's web started to unravel. But I wasn't going to Sarah with half a story. I needed to understand why he'd do this. And I needed to be sure of what I'd seen in my daughter's eyes. The quiet terror, the bruises she didn't think I noticed, the way she flinched when he touched her shoulder. 2 weeks later, Elena called. "Steph, you better sit down. David had a past. One he worked hard to bury. 3 women. Same pattern. Married them, charmed the family, isolated them, drained their finances and vanished. One of them, Patricia Chun, took her own life after losing everything. That's when the rage turned cold inside me. I printed everything. Bank transfers. Property seizures. Even a deleted message thread between David and a lawyer trying to help him gain power of attorney over Sarah. Using my name, claiming I was losing mental clarity. He wanted me out of the way. Out of Sarah's ear. Out of her life. I was going to show him what a helpless old woman really looked like. It was a quiet Thursday when I invited David and Sarah over for dinner. He walked in grinning like the devil in a 3-piece suit, acting like nothing had happened. I hugged Sarah tight, whispered in her ear, "Tonight's the last time he hurts you." She blinked but said nothing, just gave a small nod. That's all I needed. Dinner was my best. Honey-glazed salmon, roasted potatoes, and a chilled white from my private cellar. David complimented everything, even asked if I needed help with dessert. "Oh no," I said sweetly. "But I do need your help with one thing." He raised an eyebrow. "Sure, anything." I handed him a thick brown envelope. "You'll want to sit down before reading this." He opened it casually, then froze. His fingers trembled as he flipped through the pages. Bank records. Patricia Chin's obituary. The forged documents. Even screenshots of his recent communications with someone listed as Lawyer P. What is this?" he asked, trying to keep calm. "The truth," I replied. "And proof." "You're done, David." Sarah looked between us, confused and scared. "Mom, what's going on?" I turned to her gently. "Your husband tried to abandon me to push you into signing over your assets. He's done it before, sweetheart. You weren't his first victim. But you'll be his last." David shot up from the chair, face red. "You can't prove anything. This is all circumstantial. Sarah, she's lying. She's always hated me." But Sarah didn't look at him. She was staring at the documents, then back at me. And I saw it, that flicker of realization in her eyes. That slow crumbling of denial. "You used me," she whispered. The days that followed moved fast. Elena brought in her legal contacts, and Rosa managed logistics like a general in combat. We filed an injunction, froze Sarah's joint accounts, and moved her into a secure apartment I'd been quietly preparing. David's access to her life, financial and physical, was severed. And then we went public. Using Elena's connections in media, Patricia Chin's story resurfaced, with David's name attached. Other women stepped forward, confirming everything. I never had to raise my voice. I just held the door open, and the truth walked through. The final straw? Surveillance footage from the train station. David's smug goodbye captured clearly, synced with the time-stamped fake ticket I kept. The moment went viral. Viewers across the country calling me train station grandma. I didn't care for the fame. I cared that Sarah finally believed me. David was arrested for fraud, identity theft, and emotional abuse charges. His bail was denied. Turns out he had more secrets stashed in offshore accounts that didn't quite stay hidden. The trial lasted 2 months. I attended every single day, front row, pearls on lips sealed. Sarah testified bravely. She cried, broke down, but stood back up. On the day the verdict was read, she clutched my hand so tight I thought she'd break it. Guilty. 2 words. And my daughter exhaled for the first time in 5 years. We didn't celebrate with champagne. We celebrated with silence, holding each other in a small rented Airbnb where nobody knew us. Just peace. That was enough. I used part of my inheritance, and a silent donation from Rosa, to start the Patricia Chin Foundation. We provide housing, legal aid, and financial recovery plans for women trapped by economic predators like David. It's been 2 years, and we've helped over 70 women start again. Sarah now works as our outreach director. Her voice has returned, clear, confident, powerful. She tells our story at conferences, workshops, sometimes on podcasts. She no longer cries when she speaks of him. She holds her head high because survival deserves pride. As for David, he's serving a 15-year sentence, with no parole for the first 8. I get updates from the prison occasionally. I never respond. Some people ask if I've forgiven him. I say forgiveness is a gift, and some people haven't earned it. But I've moved on. I live by the water now. I keep my circles small and my memory sharp. And whenever someone underestimates me, I smile. They have no idea. Moral lesson. Even the quietest women carry storms inside. Never underestimate a mother's love, or her rage in disguise. Rise smart, strike quiet, and always walk away richer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your tribe, and comment your biggest lesson or reaction below.